First thing I'm gonna make is this mac and cheese, which is traditional mac and cheese with the volume turned up. So to make real mac and cheese, as opposed to the stuff in the box, first thing I want to do is make a bechamel sauce, which is really a fancy word for white sauce. So I'm going to heat 1 quart of milk, and then in another pan, I'm going to melt 6 tablespoons of butter, and add half a cup of flour, and cook them together for about 2 minutes while I'm whisking it. You don't want the butter to burn. This is the kind of sauce you use in a gratin, which sounds fancy in French, but it's perfect for mac and cheese. Okay, now I just want to slowly add the hot milk, and you'll see the whole thing becomes a really nice, thick, white sauce. Add it whisking. Actually, I think you can just... Whoa, that's hot. How about forget slowly? Just dump it all in. Okay, there, that's fast. And now off the heat, just gonna add some flavorings. A tablespoon of salt. It seems like a lot, but remember we're putting a lot of pasta in this. Half a teaspoon of pepper, and half a teaspoon of nutmeg, which is sort of a classic gratin seasoning. I thought would be really good with mac and cheese. Just whisk it together. I actually think nutmeg brings out the flavor in the cheese, which brings me to the next thing, cheese. Lots of good cheese. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in 12 ounces of good Swiss gruyère. It's a really nutty cheese, and it's just wonderful in mac and cheese. Okay, a little piece left over for the cook. The second cheese I use is cheddar, and I'm going to use 8 ounces of good cheddar. Now that would have taken a lot of time if I'd done it by hand. Lots of cheese. Okay, then I'm going to put the cheese into the sauce. A lot of cheese in this sauce, but that's why it tastes so good. Okay, just stir it in. So I'm going to combine this now with macaroni, which I cooked. Put that in a bowl. Add the sauce. It's about a pound of macaroni, or cavatappi. Okay, mix that all together. Boy, this looks like enough for a crowd. In my experience, everybody loves it, so they eat a lot. So I'm going to pour this into a dish, and I'm going to do sliced tomatoes and breadcrumbs on the top. Gives a nice little crunch and delicious flavor with it. So it really is macaroni and cheese, but for a party. Okay, into the dish. Now, how bad could that be? So, just right on top, really simple. Okay, right on top of the tomatoes and the mac and cheese. I'm going to bake it at 375 for 30 minutes, and it's going to be bubbly and delicious. It's mac and cheese, but better. I'm making truffled mac and cheese. This is a great dinner party dish because it's kind of very casual, but it's very elegant. People love it. You can make it in advance, throw it in the oven, nothing to do when the guests arrive. So I'm starting with mushrooms. I've sliced cremini and shiitake mushrooms, and I'm just sauteing them in butter and olive oil just until they're tender, which they are. It's perfect. I'm going to add a little bit of cream sherry. The sweetness is really good with them. There's something about sherry and mushrooms that are really good together. It'll get infused into the mushrooms, but it's also going to deglaze the pan so you get all the flavor into the truffled mac and cheese. Okay, while that cooks, I'm going to cook the pasta. So I like to use cavatappi, which is like a squiggly pasta. I'm going to pour it into a big pot of boiling salted water, and that cooks for about 6 to 8 minutes. Next, the sauce. So I'm starting with truffle butter. It's a 3-ounce pot. I use white truffle butter because I really like the flavor. Okay, that's going to melt, and now I'm going to make the sauce. I'll add half a cup of all-purpose flour, whisk it constantly for 2 minutes, pour in 4 cups of scalded whole milk, and cook the sauce, stirring constantly with a wooden spoon for 2 minutes. So now I'm going to add lots of cheese. So I've got 4 cups of gruyère, and 3 cups of grated extra sharp cheddar, and then lots of seasonings. Just a sprinkling of nutmeg, 2 tablespoons of salt, and lots of pepper. Just gonna stir this in. Oh, this smells good, it looks good. This is like classic comfort food, all dressed up for a party. Okay, I think the pasta's ready, so I'm going to just drain it. I'm just going to put it right in the bowl. Lots of pasta. Okay, now I'm just going to put the sauce into the pasta, and I want to do it while it's still hot. You can really smell the nutmeg. It's a little subtle, but it really makes a difference. And then stir all this in. And then I'm going to add probably 2/3 of the mushrooms that I cooked. I'll save some for the top. You can really smell the truffles. How good is this going to be? The aroma is going to be all the way through the house. That's nicely mixed. Okay, just put it right in the dish. So nice. You can really make this like early in the day or even the day before and just throw it in the oven before dinner. And just because I can't leave well enough alone, I've made herb breadcrumbs to put on top, and it gives a nice, really crunchy topping and lots of flavor. Let me tell you how I made them. I put 1½ cups of diced white bread with the crust removed into the food processor, with 2 cloves of garlic chopped, 3 tablespoons of chopped fresh parsley, turned it on, and in a few moments, I had perfectly fine breadcrumbs all ready to sprinkle over the mac and cheese. Okay, one more thing. Just so everybody knows there are mushrooms in this and truffles, I'm just going to do some mushrooms right down the middle of the dish. Okay. Into the oven, 375 degrees for 40 minutes, and this is going to be amazing. And that's truffled mac and cheese. Who knew mac and cheese could be so elegant? But I can't have it sitting here without at least a little taste. Just a little corner, nobody will miss it. It just smells so good. That's a little taste. That's the best mac and cheese I've ever made. Let's start with a baked pasta recipe. It's crusty baked shells and cauliflower. So I've cooked 3/4 pound of shells. Oof. And I'm going to add them to some sauteed cauliflower that I've already made, right in the bowl. I cooked the cauliflower in a little olive oil for about 5 to 7 minutes. I did it in 2 batches so it browns really well. So now I'm going to add lots of really great flavors. And the first one's a little unusual for me, fresh sage. I need 3 tablespoons of minced fresh sage. I'm going to just dump it right in. Next thing is 2 tablespoons of capers. I like capers for this because I like that kind of vinegary thing. It's already pretty interesting, isn't it? 1 tablespoon of chopped garlic, and I'm putting it in raw, but it's going to cook when I bake the pasta. Next thing is 1/2 teaspoon of lemon zest. Okay. And now lots of salt and pepper to make sure you bring out the flavors. And I like a little heat and things like this, so I'm just going to put a little bit of red pepper flakes in. About 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Totally up to you. I'm just going to mix that all together. Doesn't that look great? I like that the cauliflower is actually the same size as the pasta. Okay, next is some cheese. I have Italian fontina, 2 cups, that I'm just going to put right in. So I've got a nice big baking dish. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put half the pasta in the dish. I actually love the shells for this because they kind of catch the cauliflower in the shells. You always want to choose the pasta that's right for the dish that you're making. And I think the shells work really perfectly for this. The next thing I'm going to do is put big dollops of ricotta right on top. I don't want to spread it out because when it bakes, the ricotta is going to sort of get creamy and you'll find little pockets of creamy ricotta. So just like this, big dollops of ricotta. Just right on top. This is a great dish to make ahead because you can assemble the whole thing, refrigerate it, and then just throw it in the oven before dinner. You serve it with a little green salad to start and dinner's ready. And the last thing is I made a panko topping that's going to make it really crusty. Let me tell you how I made it. I poured 1/2 cup of panko, Japanese breadcrumbs, into a bowl. Added 6 tablespoons of pecorino that I'd ground in a food processor, along with 2 tablespoons of minced fresh parsley, tablespoon of olive oil, and mixed everything together. Now this is going to go into the oven, 400 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes until it's hot and bubbly. That looks pretty good. Crusty baked shells and cauliflower, one of my favorite pastas ever. So good. When it comes to comfort food, I'd say mac and cheese is pretty high on everybody's list. So for dinner tomorrow night, I thought I'd make a grown-up mac and cheese with bacon and blue cheese. Okay, so I need 1.5 cups of milk, and I'm gonna heat it up. And then in another pot, 2 tablespoons of butter. Turn on the heat, 2 tablespoons of flour. So I'm just gonna cook these together for about 2 minutes. You don't want the butter to burn. I'm gonna whisk them together. So this cooked butter and flour is gonna act as a thickener for the sauce. Now I'm gonna add the hot milk to it, and it's gonna thicken it. Okay, I'm just gonna cook that over low heat until it just gets a little thicker. Okay, let's see how this is doing. Oh, the white sauce is just perfect now. It's thickened. It's not incredibly thick, but what it does is just coat the spoon. So now off the heat, I'm going to add all the cheeses. So 1/2 cup of gruyère, 1/3 cup of cheddar, and about 2 ounces of Roquefort. You can really use any kind of blue cheese, but Roquefort has a particularly wonderful flavor. And a little bit of nutmeg. It's a really classic spice that's used in gratins. You sort of won't know it's there, but it'll make everything else taste better. Give it a stir so the cheeses all melt in. Now that's a much better way to do bacon, so it's not splattering all over the place. Just chop it up. Just put it right in. Okay, time to drain the pasta. So I'm just going to put this right back into the sauce. Just stir it around. This is so easy to make in a large quantity, but since it's just Jeffrey and me, I'm just making it for 2. And the best thing is, I can make it today and bake it off tomorrow. And then I can spend tomorrow with Jeffrey instead of cooking. Okay, a little bit of a topping so it's sort of crunchy on the top. So just take 2 pieces of white bread, cut off the crusts, and just chop them up. Put them in the bowl of a food processor with a steel blade, and just a little bit of fresh basil, a couple of leaves. Just put it right in the food processor with the bread, and just pulse it until it's crumbs. Okay, and just right on top of the mac and cheese, so it's creamy on the bottom and crunchy on the top. Okay. Into the fridge. I'm going to bake it tomorrow night for a cozy and comforting dinner for Jeffrey and me. You know how much I love to take a classic recipe and do it with a twist. And I was thinking mac and cheese, lobster. How bad could that be? So I'm going to make lobster mac and cheese, and it starts with a sauce. The French call it a roux, which sounds really fancy. It's not. Start with butter, 6 tablespoons of butter, and I'm just going to melt that. And then later I'm going to add some flour for thickener. Okay, the next thing is heating up a quart of milk. And what this does is thicken the sauce. When I add the cheese and the pasta, it gives a nice thick mac and cheese, classic mac and cheese. And then I'm going to mix into the butter 1/2 cup of flour. And the thing about making a roux, or white sauce, is you want the flour to cook for a minute or 2, so it doesn't have that sort of raw flour taste. Okay, milk looks like it's hot, just under simmering. Just going to pour it in. And now I'm going to stir it until it gets nice and thick. This is definitely one of my favorite things to make, because you can make the whole thing in advance, put it in gratin dishes, leave it in the fridge, and then just throw it in the oven before dinner. So this is white sauce. That's it. It's just thickened milk, and it's going to make fantastic mac and cheese. Okay, I'm going to turn the heat off next to the cheese. That's the good part. Usually mac and cheese is sort of ordinary cheddar. It's not exciting. So I'm going to use really good extra sharp cheddar. And this is the easiest way to grate cheese in a food processor. Just put it right in. I mean, if you want to get exercise, you can do it the old-fashioned way, but why? How easy is that? So that's about 2 cups of grated cheddar, and I'm going to do 4 cups of grated gruyère. Gruyère is really sharp, nutty cheese, and it's one of my favorites. I'm just going to cut it in pieces and then grate it right on top of the other one. Just cut it so it fits in the feed tube, just like that. Okay, into the pan with lots of flavorings. I just think it's going to go so well with lobster. That's a lot of cheese. It makes 8 servings. 1 tablespoon of salt. I use kosher salt. 1 teaspoon of pepper. Give it a little heat. And half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Sort of a classic French gratin seasoning. Just think brings out the nuttiness of the cheeses. Stir that together. This is going to be really good mac and cheese. Okay, next I need some pasta. I have a pound of pasta. It's all cooked in a big pot of boiling salted water with a splash of olive oil in it. I use cavatappi for this. You can find it in the grocery store. It's hot, but it's perfectly done. Just going to drain it. Once it's drained, it goes right back into the sauce and cheese. Yeah, okay. This is delicious. All the pasta and the cheese, and wait till I put lobster in. It's going to get even better. Okay, I'm going to cut up 1.5 pounds of lobster. So I'm going to leave some of the big pieces whole, and then the really big ones I'm going to chop up. Oh, this smells like the sea. It's just delicious. You know, lobster's a pretty luxurious ingredient these days, any day. But the good news is it's 1.5 pounds of lobster. It makes 8 servings. Okay, all this is just going to go right into the pot. This may be one of my favorite dishes of all time. So good. Big stir. Is this gorgeous? Big, thick chunks of lobster, creamy mac and cheese. I'm just going to put it in gratin dishes. And after I put them in the dishes, I'm going to make a crispy topping that's going to make it creamy underneath and crispy on the top. I love that texture. This is such a simple dinner because you really can make it in advance. Keep it in the refrigerator. Just throw it in the oven before dinner. And all you need to serve is like a salad and a fruit dessert. Okay, now I'm going to get the topping ready. First I need some melted butter. 2 tablespoons of melted butter. And 1.5 cups of breadcrumbs. So these are breadcrumbs. It's really fresh bread that I just ground up in the food processor. And what this is going to do is when it's in the oven, it's going to get brown and crusty, and it's fantastic on the top. Actually, texture is really important to me, as important as flavor. When there's something creamy on the bottom and crusty on the top, it's just so good. So I'm just going to sprinkle this right on top. The breadcrumbs aren't cooked now because they're going to cook in the oven. So I think I'm going to bake 2 off so you can see how fabulous this is. And then I'll bake the others later. I'm sure Jeffrey's going to want one. Into the oven, 375 degrees for 30 minutes, and they're going to be bubbly and crusty on the top. It's going to be so good. Lobster mac and cheese. Now, I don't know anybody that wouldn't want that for dinner. Wow, it smells fantastic. And next, I'm going to make 2 pasta sauces, pesto and marinara sauce. And then I'm going to make a cold pasta salad with tomatoes and feta. But first, I think I have to make sure this is really good. Wow. Oh, how fabulous is this?